I couldn't believe my eyes when I pulled up to my driveway. The concrete pad where my Winnebago Grand Tour, my pride and joy, my $500,000 luxury home on wheels, had been parked was empty. Just empty. I blinked hard, thinking the 14-hour flight from Tokyo had messed with my vision. But no. My RV was gone. Panic set in as I fumbled for my phone, calling 911 before I even stepped out of the Uber. After spending 6 weeks in Japan finalizing an international legal cooperation agreement, my final assignment before starting my new position as district attorney, all I wanted was to collapse in my own bed. Now I was standing in my driveway at 11 p.m., reporting a stolen vehicle. "Sir, we'll send someone right away," the dispatcher promised. "Could anyone have borrowed it?" "Absolutely not," I said, dragging my suitcase toward my front door. "I've been out of the country. The only people with access to my property are my neighbor who waters my plants and the HOA." That's when I spotted it, an official notice taped to my door, the Whispering Pines Homeowners Association letterhead gleaming under my porch light. Notice of covenant violation and property removal. My blood ran cold as I tore the paper from the door. According to this document, my RV had been towed 3 weeks ago for violating HOA regulations against unsightly recreational vehicles being stored on residential properties. The notice was signed by Catherine Wilkinson, HOA president. I crumpled the paper in my fist. The Winnebago wasn't just any RV. It was where I'd lived for 2 years after my divorce, where I'd healed while traveling the country before settling here. And more urgently, it contained my briefcase with irreplaceable case notes for my first week on the job. The police arrived within minutes. Officer Jenkins took my statement, her expression growing increasingly uncomfortable as I explained the situation. "Mr. Irwin," she said cautiously, "I know you're upset, but technically the HOA has the authority to remove vehicles that violate their covenants." "Officer, I reviewed those covenants before buying this house," I insisted. "There's a specific exemption for properly maintained luxury motorhomes on concrete pads, which is exactly what I have. And they're required to give 30 days' notice before taking any action." She nodded slowly. "I can file a report for the missing property, but this might be a civil matter. You should probably talk to the HOA president first thing tomorrow." After the police left, I couldn't sleep. I spent the night reviewing the covenants and preparing for battle. At 7:30 a.m., fueled by righteous anger and too much coffee, I marched to Catherine Wilkinson's house at the end of our cul-de-sac, an immaculately landscaped Tudor with "No soliciting" signs prominently displayed. Catherine answered the door in a tailored pantsuit, her honey blonde bob not moving an inch as she tilted her head in confusion. "Can I help you?" Her eyes darted to my rumpled clothes with thinly veiled disapproval. "I'm Andrew Irwin from 1478 Maple Drive. You had my RV towed while I was out of the country." I thrust the crumpled notice toward her. "I need to know where it is immediately." Recognition dawned on her face. "Oh, Mr. Irwin. Yes, we notified you multiple times about the violation before taking action." "That's impossible. I've been in Japan for 6 weeks. She offered a practiced, sympathetic smile that didn't reach her eyes. "We sent 3 notices. If you weren't checking your mail, that's hardly our responsibility." I forced myself to take a deep breath. "Catherine, my RV was parked legally according to the covenant exemptions for luxury motorhomes. Where is it now?" "It's been impounded at Valley Storage," she said, checking her watch. "But I'm afraid there are substantial fees that must be paid before release. The daily storage rate is $150, plus the initial towing fee of $800. The math made me dizzy. Over $4,000 to get my own property back? "This is theft," I said quietly. "I'll be taking this matter further." Her smile tightened. "Feel free to contact our HOA attorney. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a breakfast meeting with the mayor." As she closed the door in my face, I caught sight of something odd, a framed photo in her entryway. It appeared to show Catherine standing next to a brand new RV similar to mine, champagne glass raised in celebration. The image lodged in my mind as I walked home, an uneasy feeling settling in my stomach. I drove immediately to Valley Storage, a sprawling facility surrounded by chain-link fencing topped with barbed wire. The office was little more than a shed with a surly attendant who barely looked up from his phone. "I'm here about my Winnebago that was towed 3 weeks ago," I explained. He typed something into an ancient computer. "Name? Andrew Irwin." More typing than a frown. "Nothing under that name. Try checking under Whispering Pines HOA." He shook his head. "Nope. No luxury RVs brought in within the last month at all." My mouth went dry. "That's impossible. The HOA president specifically said it was brought here. Look, man, I don't know what to tell you. We document everything that comes through those gates." I showed him a picture of my Winnebago on my phone. "You're absolutely certain you haven't seen this vehicle?" He studied the image. "Nice rig. But no, definitely hasn't been here." Back in my car, I called the police again. Officer Jenkins agreed to meet me at the station to file a proper theft report, but warned me that without proof the HOA had taken the RV for illegal purposes, it would still likely be treated as a civil dispute. While waiting, I called my neighbor, Eliza Mitchell, who had been watching my house. "Andrew! You're back!" she exclaimed. "How was Japan?" "Productive until I came home to find my RV missing," I replied. "Did you notice when it disappeared?" "Oh." Her voice dropped. "Yes, actually. About 3 weeks ago, a tow truck came early in the morning. I thought it was strange, so I asked what was happening. The driver showed me paperwork saying it was authorized by the HOA. Did you happen to see where they took it?" "No, but—" She hesitated. "Catherine's son was directing the whole operation. He works for that towing company, what's it called? Precision Towing." This was getting more interesting by the minute. "Thanks, Eliza. That's extremely helpful." At the police station, Officer Jenkins took my expanded report, now including the discrepancy between Catherine's story and Valley Storage's records. "Mr. Irwin," she said carefully, "given this new information, we'll open an investigation into possible theft. The fact that the HOA president's son was involved and the storage facility has no record of your vehicle suggests something improper occurred." I nodded, relieved to be taken seriously. "There's something else. I'm starting as the county's new district attorney on Monday." Her eyes widened slightly. "I wasn't aware of that, sir. I wasn't planning to mention it, but if there's criminal activity involving the HOA, I may need to recuse myself once I'm in office. I'd appreciate if the investigation could move quickly." "Of course," she said, suddenly looking much more alert. "We'll assign someone immediately." As I left the station, my phone rang with an unknown number. "Hello? Mr. Irwin?" A nervous male voice came through. "This is Trevor, from the HOA board. I need to talk to you about your RV. Not over the phone. Can we meet at Parkside Cafe in 30 minutes? My pulse quickened. "I'll be there." Trevor was easy to spot, a skinny man in his 30s fidgeting with a coffee cup in the corner booth, eyes darting toward the door each time it opened. I slid into the seat across from him. "Thanks for coming," he whispered, glancing around the nearly empty cafe. "I've been on the HOA board for 2 years. What happened with your RV? It's not right, and it's not the first time." I leaned forward. "What do you mean?" "Catherine has been running the HOA like her personal fiefdom for years. The rules only apply when and how she wants them to." He slid a folder across the table. "I've been keeping records. 3 other homeowners have had vehicles or equipment removed for violations in the past year. None of them ever got their property back." I opened the folder to find meticulous documentation, dates, photos, copies of HOA meeting minutes with sections highlighted. "Why are you telling me this?" Trevor's eyes met mine for the first time. "Because yesterday, Catherine called an emergency board meeting to approve the sale of a permanently abandoned luxury RV that had been legally acquired through covenant enforcement. Your RV. The vote passed 3-2, with me and 1 other member opposing." My stomach lurched. She's selling my Winnebago? He nodded. To her sister-in-law for $50,000. It's worth what, 10 times that? The sale is happening tomorrow morning. They're keeping it at Catherine's son's house in the meantime, 17 Lakeview Road. I stared at him, processing this bombshell. This is straight-up theft and fraud. I know. That's why I'm risking my neck to tell you. He stood up, leaving his coffee untouched. I was never here, okay? Catherine has friends in high places, including Judge Sorensen, who handles most local disputes. After Trevor left, I called Officer Jenkins again, updating her on this new information. She agreed to meet me at the address where my RV was allegedly being kept. What we found at 17 Lakeview Road confirmed my worst fears. Behind a tall privacy fence, clearly visible from the police cruiser, was my Winnebago, partially repainted, but unmistakably mine. The custom solar panel configuration I'd installed myself was a dead giveaway. That's definitely your property, Officer Jenkins said, snapping photos. I'll request a warrant immediately to search and recover the vehicle, but it might take time, especially if Judge Sorensen is involved as your informant suggested. By tomorrow morning it could be gone, I pointed out. She nodded grimly. I understand. Let me make some calls. We might be able to expedite things given the circumstances. I spent a sleepless night waiting for news. At 6:30 a.m., Officer Jenkins called. We got the warrant, she said. Judge Renner signed it. We specifically requested him instead of Sorensen. We're executing it at 7 a.m. You might want to be present. I arrived at Lakeview Road just as 3 police cars pulled up. Catherine's son, a burly man in his 30s, emerged from the house looking confused, then alarmed as officers approached with the warrant. What the hell is this? He demanded. Search warrant for stolen property. An officer explained, handing him the document. We have reason to believe a stolen Winnebago Grand Tour is on these premises. His face paled. That's HOA property. Legally obtained. Sir, please step aside while we execute the warrant. As they opened the gate to the backyard, I got my first clear view of my beloved RV. The Winnebago's distinctive silhouette was partially obscured by tarps, and someone had started sloppily repainting the exterior from its original deep blue to white. Inside, I found evidence of hasty attempts to remove identifying features. VIN plates had been tampered with, but not completely removed. My personal belongings had been tossed into garbage bags, but thankfully, my briefcase with my work materials was still intact, hidden in the compartment under the bed where I always kept it. While I was documenting the condition of my property, Officer Jenkins approached with a grim expression. Mr. Irwin, we found something else you should see. In the garage of the house, police had discovered a workshop containing what appeared to be parts from other vehicles, custom wheels, satellite dishes, solar panels, and high-end electronics that had been removed from other RVs and trailers. This looks like an operation, Jenkins observed. We're finding registration information that matches complaints from other homeowners in various HOAs around the county. By noon, Catherine's son had been taken into custody, and I was arranging for a professional driver to take my partially repainted Winnebago to a secure storage facility. As I was completing the paperwork, a sleek Lexus screeched into the driveway. Catherine Wilkinson emerged, her perfectly composed exterior cracking as she took in the scene. What is the meaning of this? She demanded, marching toward the officers. You have no right to be here. That vehicle was legally seized for covenant violations. Officer Jenkins intercepted her. Ms. Wilkinson, we're executing a valid search warrant for stolen property. The vehicle has been identified as belonging to Mr. Irwin. Catherine's eyes found me, narrowing dangerously. This is a civil HOA matter. I'll have all your badges for this overreach. I stepped forward, keeping my voice calm. Actually, Catherine, fraudulently seizing personal property worth over $500,000 and attempting to sell it is grand theft. The covenant violation claim was fabricated, as my RV is explicitly permitted under Section 7.3 of the HOA agreement. Who do you think you are? She hissed. I've been running Whispering Pines for 15 years. One call to Judge Sorensen and Catherine Wilkinson," interrupted a detective who had just arrived on scene. "I'm Detective Ramirez with County Fraud Division. We'd like you to come with us to answer some questions regarding an ongoing investigation into patterns of property theft across multiple HOA jurisdictions." Her face strained of color. "I want my lawyer." "Of course," the detective replied calmly. "You can call them from the station." As they led Catherine toward a police car, she jerked to a stop in front of me. "You have no idea who you're dealing with. I play golf with the district attorney every month." I couldn't help but smile. "That might be a problem going forward. You see, I'm Andrew Irwin, the new district attorney for this county. I start on Monday." The look on her face was worth every penny of the airfare from Japan. Over the next week, the investigation expanded dramatically. Records seized from Catherine's home revealed a sophisticated scheme spanning 5 years and 7 different HOA communities. Catherine, her son, and 4 other accomplices had systematically targeted high-value property, mostly RVs, boats, and construction equipment, using HOA regulations as cover for what amounted to organized theft. The operation had netted them over $2 million, with Catherine using her connections to ensure complaints were directed to friendly judges who routinely sided with HOA authorities. My case had been different only because I'd been out of the country during the theft, and because Trevor had risked his position to expose the scheme. 10 days after returning from Japan, I stood before the courthouse press corps for my first official press conference as district attorney. The room fell silent as I approached the podium. "Good morning. As my first official act as district attorney, I am announcing the formation of a special task force to investigate criminal abuses of authority within homeowners associations throughout our county. Following the arrest of Catherine Wilkinson and 5 others connected to a multi-year property theft operation, we have reason to believe this problem may be more widespread than initially thought." I paused, looking directly into the cameras. Homeowners associations serve an important purpose in our communities when run properly and ethically. However, when individuals use these positions of trust to commit crimes against the very neighbors they're supposed to represent, this office will respond with the full force of the law. Reporters shouted questions, but I held up a hand. "I am also announcing that Judge Martin Sorensen is under investigation for judicial misconduct related to this case, and has temporarily recused himself from all HOA-related matters pending the outcome." The room erupted in chaos as journalists clamored for details. As I fielded questions, I caught sight of Trevor standing at the back of the room, a small smile on his face. Later that evening, as I relaxed in my fully restored Winnebago, now legally parked on my concrete pad with a new security system installed, my doorbell rang. Eliza Mitchell stood on my porch holding a bottle of champagne. "I thought we should celebrate your victory," she said with a smile. "The neighborhood is buzzing about our crusading new district attorney." I invited her in, and as we sipped champagne in my living room, she revealed she'd been documenting Catherine's questionable activities for years. "She fined me $500 for planting unauthorized rosebushes last year," Eliza explained. "When I protested, she threatened to put a lien on my house. I paid it because I couldn't afford the fight, but I started keeping records of everything after that. Those records could be extremely helpful to our investigation," I told her. "We're finding that Catherine's operation may have connections to HOAs in neighboring counties as well." Eliza's eyes widened. "Actually, I have a friend in Oak Ridge Estates who had a similar experience with her garden shed. Maybe I should put you in touch?" 2 months later, the Whispering Pines HOA held a community-wide election for an entirely new board. Trevor was unanimously elected president, running on a platform of transparency and reasonable enforcement. Catherine Wilkinson and her son accepted plea deals in exchange for testimony against their co-conspirators, including Judge Sorensen, who was removed from the bench. The investigation ultimately uncovered similar schemes in 3 neighboring counties, resulting in 27 indictments. As for my Winnebago Grand Tour, it remains proudly parked on my concrete pad, a symbol of justice to the neighborhood. The new HOA regulations, drafted with input from all homeowners, now specifically protect property rights while still maintaining community standards. Sometimes on weekends, I take it out camping with Eliza, whose expertise in native plants has transformed my formerly plain yard into a showcase of local biodiversity. Fully HOA compliant, of course. We joke that we should thank Catherine for bringing us together, but truthfully, I'm just grateful my instinct to fight back led to dismantling a criminal enterprise rather than accepting that my property was simply gone forever. As Eliza likes to say, sometimes justice arrives in unexpected packages. Or in my case, in a luxury RV that found its way home again.